Welcome to Violent Minds. I'm Mark Chauppetta, your national private investigator.
And I'm Dr. Keith Ablow, a forensic psychiatrist, practiced for 25 years. Now I'm practicing on you, buddy. I'm going to practice till I get it right, but you're the toughest case I've had.
You think?
I think so.
I think I'm a complicated mind?
Do I have a complicated mind?
No, all right, so for those that are watching our podcast, Keith and I, we kind of pen palled each other. Basically, I stalked him and we formulated a relationship because I've always known who he was, but he didn't take the time to look through the middle.
You have a lot of ill will about that. Yeah. So here's the thing. Let me just give some background. Yes. Through no, particular shenanigans on my part, I ended up on the cover of Boston Magazine. I was doing a national talk show at the time. Now, Mark, you having, a substantial ego, clearly looked at the cover and you were inside. Yes. As another person of interest in the Boston area. They weren't slighting you.
Yes.
But you didn't happen to have the national talk show. It's okay. You've never gotten over it.
Well,
you were inside. I was on the cover and it's...
But I did count the pages, and I think I had like 7 pages inside. And so,
well, there you go. So that's big, and that's really very good. But it's interesting how long that has kind of eaten away at you. I think we're talking about back. It's 12 years ago.
Right. And, you haven't been in my basement, so it looks like a scene from a violent horror movie. I have pictures of Dr. Keith Ablow everywhere.
There you go. A lot of people do. A lot of people do. And, we've got to figure this out because I've taken such polarizing stands. And my own therapist said, you got to start thinking, are you taking these stands because, I was bullied as a kid? He said, I think you're like in some sort of reaction formation, which is, you can go to the other extreme. If you ran away from your bullies, and I did a few times, then you can go to the opposite extreme and you can say, I don't care how big the bullies are. I'm not going anywhere. He said, I think that's what you're doing. You're pissing people off and then you won't run away. You're like creating your own drama. Possible. That's why I pay him.
I have lived my whole life creating my own drama, and a wise person once said, "What's the saying? Many a truth is said in jest."
Yes, well, that is some wise person said that. Yes.
So I'm jesting. I'm jesting a lot.
Yes, you're just. But when you say that you have created your own drama for most of your life, is it by? Would you say it? Well, it's random. It's served by accidents. These psychological loose ends in my mind, or do you do it intentionally because you're otherwise bored? So do you set out to do it? After all, you had a good job. You were a prison guard.
I was a deputy sheriff. I'm a successful private investigator, and dabble a little bit in the media. But yeah, you know what? It's weird, and through my life and. I'll be 53 years old in 2022. I've noticed that some of the big things in my life I probably could have avoided if I maybe thought things out a little bit more and didn't rush through it. But
sure.
But then on the flip side, when I create a mess, I am the best at cleaning it up.
Well, there you go. So you can create messes and clean them up. I can create bullies and then stand them down. Here's the question for you to ponder in the darkest moment of your quietest night.
Yep.
You don't give me any kudos for that poetry. It's okay. I stole it anyhow.
I like it. Darkest moment. I was thinking of that.
Quietest night. But in any case, do you think when you were a prison guard?
Yes.
What part of you do you think you were guarding against escaping?
What part of me was I guarding against escaping?
Yeah, what was it about you, your potential darkness, your unresolved demons that may have been the very thing that when you were a prison guard that unconsciously you were saying, I can't let this escape. That's why I've become a guard, to guard against this really dark potential in me from
an investigator, being a man who was adopted, who seeked out his biological siblings at a very young age. Maybe
what's the angry part? What are you the most angry about? That's what I'm getting at. What are you the most angry about? What have you been in your life the most angry about?
What have I been the most angry about? You know what? I'm probably the most angry about in my life, not to get super personal because our guest is on the line, is probably, what I have to deal with my sons in the muscular dystrophy and things of that
Well,
nature.
sure.
So we can talk about that on the flip side. So let me just say really quick that we have an awesome guest coming up, probably one of the most violent people inside an octagon or a ring, but one of the sweetest guys outside of an octagon in a ring. So that's kind of an oxymoron, and it's something that you can have a field day with as a shrink.
I can't wait.
And that is none other than UFC Hall of Famer, Chuck the Iceman Liddell. So let me bring Chuck into the show right now. Here we go. The magic of hey Chuck.
Buddy.
There we go. How you doing?
Good. This is
Good.
Mark Chauppetta, as
Good.
you know, and Dr. Keith Ablow. I don't know if he's sitting over the top of you.
How's up here?
The
Good to see you, brother.
you guys know each other at all?
We don't, but he has more hair than I do, and more hair than you do.
Chuck, do you know who Dr. Keith Ablow is?
No.
You can be honest.
No idea.
Good.
Why would he?
Good.
Right.
He needs a little, a little deflation of his ego here. So our show is called Violent Minds, and Dr. Ablow is a New York Times best-selling author, former shrink from the king of all media, Howard Stern, and a crime novelist, and just an all-around great guy. So we've joined forces to put this podcast, Violent Minds, together. So I wanted to bring you on because you've always been so good to me over the years. So I want to thank you for that first. And
Violent Minds fits.
Right?
There you go.
Yeah, right. So
Does it fit? Violent Minds. Does it fit?
Not really. I don't think so. I think I'm probably the least. All my friends, probably the last person to use violence as an option.
Right.
It's a dangerous one to get into with me.
Yeah. That's
I'm not, it's not an option I'm opposed to in general. If the situation causes for it.
Yeah, right. So what do you figure? Because I know, like, growing up, and I don't mean to get too shrinky too soon with you. There's another kind of steel cage match. They're not going to let us out until I get to the tattered child inside you. But I know, like, you weren't raised by your mom and dad. And I'm wondering, if you think about it, the fact that you have this outlet, you have this incredible ability in the ring, and you can tap into real, violent rage if you have to channel it. Where does it come from in your life? Where did the cauldron get started?
Yeah, I'm not sure really. I don't know how much of my history you know, but yeah, my dad left when I was 3.
Right.
He tried to I never talked to him. He died a couple years ago, I think. And he sent his kids out when I was, I think, 28 or 29, right after I fought in the UFC on TV to try to connect with me. And I wasn't having it. I had no interest really in talking to him.
Because he had walked out.
He walked out. I like I told them, the whole story. They went out, they wanted to talk to me, and they said, well, you only heard your mom's side of the story, but your dad was like, I'm like, hey, my mom's side of the story, are you kidding me? The lady that raised me? Yeah. That's the only story I have. So
right.
We have my grandparents had the same phone number and the same address as when he left. He's 25 years too late.
Yeah, I hear you.
That was kind of
yeah, right.
I think there's a lot of I got a little angry, and I was surprised because I thought I didn't care at all.
Yeah. Right.
He was never there. My grandpa stepped in. Moved in with my grandparents when I was 8.
Okay.
And he really became my dad. So,
Right. And so you had people around you who loved you. You knew that they did.
yeah, 100%. I had that. They always, I grew up. I was really interested in martial arts. I love fighting. I love.
Yeah.
I learned. I was really interested in martial arts. I love fighting. Fought a lot in the street. There's always, I was protecting people most of the time. And I always said, I should say when I was younger, I said I never started a fight. Well, I never let you out of it real easy either. When I was about 21, 22, I figured, it just wasn't worth it fighting these guys. It's causing too much trouble, too much headache, and there wasn't much competition, to be honest.
Sure.
And so, I started giving guys out. So giving a lot of easy ways out. So, I'm still not gonna let them do what they were trying to do, but I give them ways.
What's an easy way out? What's an easy way out? Like if I were to.
I've had guys come up to me and say something I know I could turn into a fight. When I was young, I could have turned that into a fight easy. I said,
right.
Man, we're making a lot of money in the UFC now. If you're that tough, man, you should fight, man. You should do that. So he turned around and goes, I said he could fight in the UFC to his buddies, and I could just sit back down and hang out with my friends and have my beer.
Got it. All right, I get it.
There's ways where you can let guys out without making. I used to make them, you'd have to put your tail between your legs and crawl out the door like the biggest pussy in the world.
Well, and speaking of which, where did the fear go? You seem not to have any unless you do and don't show it.
No, I always try to figure out how my grandpa taught that to me. Because I have a thing like for me, it's like I tell the story like I ran up my buddy, someone came and got me. I was still my wrestling gear.
Okay.
I was 19 years old. Came and got me and said, "Hey, your buddy's brother's got 20 guys around him. We got to get up there. You got to help him." So I came running out and I run right in the middle of them. Okay, what's the problem? And
yeah.
Goes, oh, you seem pretty tough for my boys around. I'm like, what's that got to do with anything? Like, and to me, I didn't have a choice. Like, so why worry about it?
Got it.
There's nothing. I mean, if you're getting beat up by 20 dudes, I better be getting beat up by 20 dudes too. If I'm your friend, or my grandpa will roll over in his grave. So, it was just kind of like I always felt like, or guys ask me, "Do you ever walk in a bar and measure it? Like, if you could fight that guy, if you could beat that guy?" And I said, "Why? I don't want to fight him. Like, I'll figure it out. Hey, if it happens, I mean, if he comes over and something happens and we have to fight, we'll figure it out then."
Wow.
Right.
Well, I did say prior to you coming on, Chuck, that you're one of the most toughest, violent guys within a ring or a cage, but one of the nicest guys outside of a cage, which is a crazy phenomenon. Me personally, I'm not very tough, but I will tell you, Chuck, back in the day, I had a Vale Tudo fight in Rhode Island, Massachusetts. I was on the same card as Tim Sylvia.
That's cool.
And I was 30 years old, and I come from wrestling pedigree like you do, and I regret at that point. I had little kids at the time. I'm like, this is too violent for me. I can't be doing this. Kip Collar, who you probably know, who runs NAGA, the North American Grappling Association, he was sanctioning these fights in a warehouse. I mean, I think it was filled with Hell's Angels. Jorge Rivera was on it. Tim Sylvia with Tim Sylvia. And I'm 30 years old, and bare knuckle Vale Tudo. It was just it was insane. So, you have always been one of my favorite fighters, and not one of my favorite guys, because you've been nothing but humble when it comes to my kids and my charity. And Chuck and I made a connection, Keith, because of a gentleman from my high school, Alex Calarexis, who, although he's a lot younger than us, we hung out with his sisters back in the day, so he put us in touch. So I want to thank you, and he's even shorter than I am, and this guy is a little fire plug badass. So thanks for everything you've done for my charity and my kids. I just want to get that out there, before.
My pleasure, man. My pleasure.
Before we get on.
So this dichotomy, Chuck, and to an extent, Mark may have it too, but nicest guy outside the ring, get you in the ring, that's a whole different story. When you're in the ring, what are you feeling? Are you feeling like, look, I got a job to do here. I have to win. Are you thinking
No,
I'm mad? Or are you thinking I'm
I,
excited?
I,
This is great.
I'm not an emotional fighter. I'm not, I don't get angry, but I do see blood in the water. Like if I can see your eyes gloss over, I hit you and he's close. I gotta get him again. Go, 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 go. So you get that killer instinct, that time, time to go. And I'm really trying to hurt you. I'm trying to end you in there. I'm trying to put my hand through the back of your head. But when I tell you, I hope you're all right. Like I am,
So there's no resistor in the circuit. For instance, if I were in the cage with you, now I have no experience at mixed martial arts, but if I somehow arranged to fight you, you're not going to stop short of the most damage you can do. You're not going to be like, oh, I'll throw Keith on the ground and he'll quit. That's it. I'm not going to get into
we're talking about a different thing. I mean, if we're competing against each other in front of me,
competing.
I'm going to assume you're prepared for me.
Okay, well, that's fair enough.
Assume that you're because you can't. It's like people say it's unfair. Like that's the thing with the street fight. Like I can't just hurt you a little bit. You don't know. I don't know how much. I don't know how good a punch you can take. I don't know. I don't even know how well you can fight.
Right.
I have no idea. You've been trained for the last 30 years. You might be some badass. You might have to hit you in the head. I mean, there's guys you can hit in the head with a bat and they're still coming. Other guys you hit them you whiffed one by their head and they fall down. It just the chin depends. So it's such a weird thing where people think, oh, I should be able to just hurt them enough to stop this. And if I start, and even the same thing in a street fight, I start wrestling with you. What if you got a friend on the side and he kicks me in the face while I'm holding you down? So if everything's situational. Like for me in a combat situation. Sure. Plus, if I've got my kids with me, my wife with me, it changes things completely.
Absolutely.
Now I'm gonna end stuff as fast as possible, and I'm more likely to end stuff quicker. I'm also more likely to back away and get them away faster too. That's my number one goal.
When's the last time in your life, the last time you can remember being afraid? Last time in your life? I mean, take me back if it was 2 years old, whenever. What's the last thing you remember being afraid of?
I mean, an unnatural fear or something. I mean,
any fear.
I was one of those things. I wasn't a big fan of big animals because I know they're strong, they're big, and I'd say kept my distance usually. But if I had to, when my daughter was riding a horse and started to buck, I ran up and grabbed the thing by the face. Pull down the thing. I wasn't. Right. I needed to move, so I'm not. I'm not afraid of it. It's kind of like I'm respectful.
Can you imagine something about which you would be in fear?
One of the things I would say, the only thing that really scared me is the not being around to protect my family and my kids.
That's
the other thing is that's kind of like not being there and not being able to stop someone from hurting someone I care about, and it really kind of gets to me. Like that's the one thing I like. Just really kind of, if I want something that bothers me, but I don't. I mean,
yeah.
I don't have any. I don't mind being up on high. Heights don't bother me. I don't know. Roller coaster.
Why would they? Yeah, no, actually, I just got a little bit of goose flesh there. You got to me because that's very human. The fact that you'd say the one thing that makes me afraid is the thing that my dad didn't do for me. How can a guy leave his 3-year-old son and not worry about whether you're going to be okay? It's unthinkable. I mean, he had demons.
I feel the same. Because I've got kids, and that's, I just don't. How do you do that?
Right. And if you had to think about, do you ever, by the way, in order to get really pumped in the ring, do you ever think of something like picture someone or something that gets you that much more engaged and focused?
No, actually, I'm I'm pretty methodical when I fight. I love fighting. I loved going out there, like, and it was just okay. It's time. Like I took time to enjoy the crowd walking out, like having fun with it a little bit.
Right.
I walked that cage. It was over. Like I was ready. I was dialed in, ready to go.
Well,
Mark, do you love fighting? Do you love fighting like he does, or do you love it?
No, well, you know what? I got into it well, man, I come from a wrestling background, like I said, and then, the mixed martial arts, Valley Tudo kind of came around and I got involved in it. And you know what? I loved the training. I loved the camaraderie. I loved the gym. I never got more sick than I've ever felt in my life before a fight, nerves wise. And this is only on the independent circuit. This isn't something like Chuck, who's got 60,000 fans, in arena. This is me with 250 Hell's Angels, whatever, yeah, in a warehouse in 1999. But when I eventually started fighting yearly, my father's fight is what I used to call it. I used to fight for my sons who have muscular dystrophy. So the way I saw it was that, they have the toughest fight in the world. So me going in there and getting punched in the face to raise awareness for them, paled in comparison. So that's how I kind of justify, in my brain. But let's put a pause on doctor side here for a second. And for those people that are watching this, tell us, about when you first got into the UFC, because the UFC had already started, when I had my first fight in 1999, the UFC was just a couple of years in fruition. And you were fighting probably on the independent circuit, right? And so you got your big.
I fought once at the Orleans in a pancreas open hand strike fight at the Orleans Hotel on a mixed card in kickboxing with a couple of pancreas fights on it.
Okay.
That in 97, and then 98 was my first UFC.
Okay.
And I fought twice that year. I fought in the UFC against Noe Hernandez, and then I went down and fought Pele down in Brazil. And
wow.
But you are
130-minute round, by the way. Better not go 130-minute round.
Wow. Crazy.
Headbutts were legal, groin shots were legal. It was an interesting. It was fun. We had a good time.
Well, that's what I was going to say, because you somewhat helped revolutionize and mainstream, the UFC. Did you ever think in a million years that what you were jumping into and how lightning was going to be caught in a bottle here, and how your whole career and your whole Iceman, was going to blow up?
I always thought the sport would get there, but I thought it'd be long after I was retired. It was just it's like, I think Dana called it our Trojan horse, the reality show, to make it explode. I went from being able to walk into a place, and I've been fighting for a while by then, and I'd be walking a place and tell you which guys might know who I am. That guy with Tapwood shirt probably knows me. That guy over there, I can figure that. But I couldn't tell any people coming up. 60-year-old ladies coming up. Hey, good fight the other night. Walking through a mall and having people just coming up to me all over the place. So,
but you must have liked it, right, Chuck? Because let's face it, you have a mohawk. All right, it's not like me. If you didn't, you seem like somewhat maybe of a, you might have a shy side to you a little bit. But when you're fighting, how was that fame? How were you able to handle that? And is it something that
I was, grew up as the toughest guy in my high school, my area. I was doing kickboxing. I was doing really well. I was in a small town, so I got a lot of press from that. So, and I think I had helped too that I got famous when I was, 30 in my 30s. So, so it really didn't blow up at 35. I won my first time the UFC final after Ultimate Fighter at 35. So, it's a little easier to handle stuff and stay grounded and be right. Than when you get it from.
So let me ask you a question. Mark was good enough to say, he's being very self-revealing, he got super nervous prior to a fight. So whether it's that or, people get performance anxiety, people get scared in life. He's not saying he was scared, he had anxiety. if you were dispensing the Chuck Liddell prescription to defeat anxiety and fear, what is it? If you were to help other people, how do you do it?
I try to explain it. It's always been for me. I was always a really good test taker, right?
Yeah.
I'd cram, and I was not good at studying ahead of time, but I'd cram and I'd study right up to it. But as soon as I shut the book and I couldn't study anymore, I just relaxed. There's nothing left for me to do. Worrying about it's not going to help. Just go do the test. And I do the test, and I'd outperform what I should have done. Always did as good as I could have done.
Got it.
And I feel the same way about fighting. I get ready. I get ready. I get there, and I'm training hard. I know I got to get this done. I got to get that done for the fight. I get that done. But when the last sparring session, last training day is over, I'm done. Now I just get the reward. I get to hang out, relax, and kind of keep warm, work my whole week. Do the PR, do all that stuff, and I enjoy all that stuff. And I have a good time. I talk to people, relax, and then I get a fight. I get my reward. I get to go out and fight. So. Yeah. But the real purpose behind it for me was I convinced myself that worrying about things like this is not going to help you. It's actually going to hurt. So why do it? Why do it? So, cram, get ready, get prepared for your thing. Do what you're supposed to do to get prepared for your thing. But when it starts, relax.
Got it.
There's no more. There's nothing else left to do. There's no more preparation you can do. There's no more. You've gone through everything. You want to go through it again? Fine. Some guys like to just go over and over and over. Fine. But once you're ready, no more film. I just think sitting there just it burns energy when you need to be recovering and relaxing before your fights.
Definitely does. What's wrong with America? What's happened to people? What is wrong? I mean, why, you can't get people to say what they mean and do what they say they're going to do. And what do you think's wrong in general with people who can't get in the steel cage, whatever it is for them? They won't go, or they won't really go, or what?
Some people, it's tough, and that's a big thing for a lot of people walking. One of my buddies I grew up with, he's he's one of the better street fighters I know, and he's like, man, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you walk out in front of everybody and just go. It's one thing when it happens, it comes up, I have to do it, I got to do it, but to get prepared for it, walk out there and be out in front of everybody and put it, and have to do that, I couldn't do it, So it's a different thing for people. Some people worry about that. But I've had a pretty good, I guess, even with all the social media and all that stuff that came up mostly after I was done fighting. But I just tell people, like, are you really? I've had my buddies are comedian. I've had a comedian buddy of mine getting upset about someone making a comment on us. I'm like, really? Do you know him? No. Does he know you? No. Okay. Well, why do you care what he thinks? Like, he's just trolling. What, I don't care. Like, if you're not my friend, or someone I know, or someone I respect, at least, you can say whatever you want. It's not going to hurt my feelings. I used to comment sometimes, and just because my fans are funnier than me, I like repost something on Twitter that someone said mean, and I repost it and make some smart ass comment, and just let my fans, my fans just rip them a new one. I was like, I have actually fun with it because they're a lot funnier than I am.
I got a question. I'm going to let Mark ask a couple. Yeah. If your physical stature were not as it is, right? If you happened for whatever reason to be slight of build, or not as muscled or coordinated, so that fighting wasn't an option, what would Chuck Liddell have been if it weren't so natural, right? It's almost like saying to a cellist, hey, if you didn't have such great hand-eye coordination and you didn't have the tonal accuracy you do, what would you have ended up doing? What about you?
I graduated from Cal Poly with an accounting degree.
Okay. You would have been an accountant?
I don't know that I would have stayed in that job.
I don't think so.
I was good at it. So I actually wanted to be a PE major because my other thing, I wanted to be a football coach.
Wow.
Or I wanted to open a martial arts school. So I thought being a PE major would have been cool. My grandparents didn't think that was a real major at the time. So they said no. And when I declared as a freshman, so I went business, accounting, And then when I got a little older and I had about 5 quarters left. I went in to see about changing it to either construction management, because I've done a lot of construction by that point, or back to PE, and it would have cost me like an extra like year and a half.
Yeah.
I'm like, because I didn't really the prerequisites didn't match. So I'm like, no, I'll just finish accounting. I'm good. And I want to fight anyway, so I'm just finishing to finish where I started.
You're a fascinating guy. Hey, Mark, what have you got?
Yeah, no, I just want to give you a little background, Keith. So Chuck said earlier when he was fighting in Pancrase and some of the fights that he was taking before he started fighting in the UFC, you know, like he said, things like knees and eye gouging and that stuff.
Yeah.
That stuff went. So then back, I'd say in the early, late 1990s or so, that's when kind of Senator McCain stepped in and started causing a shit show with everything. So, I mean,
knees to the head on the ground. The first set of rules made in New Jersey that with Larry Hazard allowed knees to head on the ground.
Okay.
First fight out there, my fighter, Gan McGee, he's a 6'10", 280 pound guy, big good wrestler. Was in that fight, fought in that show, and he had this guy from Canada, I don't know what his name was, but he kneed this guy in the head, and Gan would pick his knee way up in the air and bring it down. It looked horrible, but he kneed him in the head about 8 or 9 times. Larry Hazard was walking out of the day. He looks at me and I don't know about those knees to the head on the ground. Like, so, and lo and behold, we lost knees to the head on the ground.
Yeah, the sports clearly evolved, which has made it more mainstream, which has made it more viewable. And you know, there's a contract with ESPN. One of the things I wanted to ask you is, you know, there's that brotherhood that we have, and when you get in there, like Keith was saying, and you have one mission, and that's to knock someone out and kill them if you have to. But when the fight's over, you hug it up and you show respect with each other. You know, how many fighters throughout your career, you know, and I could probably think of 1 or 2. Did you not have that love affair with after the fact because of maybe what was said prior, you know, trash talking or things of that nature? I know you and Tito are highly documented. You know, is that for show?
I don't know. I don't. As a person, I don't like him. I don't think he's. I mean, I'll say it's not a big deal. Look, I hear nowadays that, you know, he's a good father, which that means a lot to me. So, yeah. You know, if that's good, I just don't. I don't trust him. He's not. I don't think he's trustworthy. I wouldn't do business with him. I mean, well, you know, he just had to retire from his mayor pro tem for taking
I'm speaking of Tito.
He was taking unemployment while they were paying him.
I'm speaking of Tito. Just so, Keith, if you don't know, I'm speaking of Tito Ortiz. He's a fighter that Chuck has a history with in the UFC. Some amazing fights, and have had a history after the fact. And that would be the only person that I would guess. But I like what you said, because you know what? If someone is a good parent, that's actually a strong quality.
This is his thing, right? This is his thing. I mean, Chuck turns out to be the nicest guy outside the ring, and not a not nice guy in the ring. It's just your competitor. You're competitive. You want to win. But what comes through, man, again and again, is what you value is friendship, people who stick by people, good fathers, right? And clear thinking, and people who don't let people down, right? I mean,
that's funny you say that, because that's why I always said, you know, even though, you know, I don't think I ever could, but my grandfather, I mean, I just never want to let him down. You know?
Is he still with us? Did he ever get a chance to see you fight?
Nope.
Never saw you fight?
No, he saw me kickbox. But he never saw me fight in the UFC. You know, I always joke around because, you know, he said that thing that everyone talked about not too long ago. I made a comment. I said, look, he said, when I was 19 years old, he told me I could beat Tyson. You can beat Tyson. And I think it's kind of funny. Like, now it's a serious question. Who won in a fight, you or Tyson?
Huh.
Which is
right.
I thought it was kind of cool. And then on the show I was on, he asked me, he's like, "Oh, so who'd win?" I said, "Boxing, probably Tyson. A street fight, he's got one shot on the way in. That's it. And if he misses that first shot, it's over." But
Right. Good
Speaking
point.
of all this boxing and all the Jake Paul stuff and everything, have you been approached to get back out there and have a celebrity type?
I've had people talk to me about different stuff on it. I mean, but nothing serious and nothing, enough to get back in training and get back in the ring.
All right, so another shrinky question for you. If you were competing and someone, not you, obviously, because then we wouldn't have this question. If the person died, right, would that wreck you? Would it cause second thoughts? Would you just say, look, he was doing what he wanted to do. This is what we do. Tell me, I'm not going to speak.
I mean, for me, I can't say it because I've never killed anyone. So I've never done that. So I don't know if that might change it, but I would think the way I feel about everything in my life and the way I've kind of been raised. I mean, I think as long as I was playing by the rules, we went out there and did it, and it happened. I feel sorry for his family, for his friends. I feel really bad about that, but I was doing my job. I was out there doing my, we were fighting. He was trying to, it could have happened to me too. So, I mean, I don't think I would I don't think it would bother me, but as far as it goes, yeah.
Yeah, so it is not considered, and you wouldn't think, oh, I made an error, I went too far. As long as you were playing by the rules, it's not your job to detect when someone should tap out.
Right. I mean, I agree with that. But that's kind of like how I am with everything else now too, especially at this age. Like for me, like I've had friends why don't you just punk that guy? Like, why are you talking to him? And I'm not look, because I could probably punk him, and 99.9% of the time, the guy's going to make the right decision. But what if he doesn't? Has he done it? Has he done enough for me to put him in the hospital? Because that's what I'm going to do.
Right.
He might not make it to the hospital. So for me to get confrontational with him like that, we have to be at a point where I don't care if he goes to the hospital. I don't care if he gets hurt. I don't care if I go to jail. So and there's not a lot of things that make me want to do that.
Right.
And there's not a lot of things that make me not care about me hurting someone else.
Right.
You were raised by great people. You have a martial arts background. You were taught that discipline through the arts at a very young age during your formative years. And I think that's carried through, through your whole life. And you're able to have that switch and make that conscious decision. If we're going to do it, we're going to do it, in a cage. I mean, I had a personal situation where a punk kid caused some issues within my family. Thought he was a tough guy, kind of got in my face, but I'm a licensed detective. I hold a license that if I lose my livelihood and I lose my ability to support my family. But my brain said to me, and I'm 52 years old, and I'm saying this to a 23-year-old kid who's in my face. I said, look, this isn't the time or the place for it. But if you so choose, I'm down at Lausanne MMA, 3 times a week at this time. If you want to come down, we can spar and we'll settle it there and we'll walk out and shake hands. He never showed up.
Got it. So let me get a little confrontational with Chuck, since I'm only on Zoom. Thank God. So no, if I said, listen, I think you're missing one piece of the puzzle of your personhood, it would be this, right? So what I don't know if you have, but I'll ask you the why, as to why your dad would have felt as though he had to leave when you were 3. I'm not saying it was right, excusable, but it might be describable. What was going on in this guy's mind that he thought that was the thing to do? And do you have that answer?
I mean, I look back at it now, I didn't look at it for a long time, didn't think about it, but I thought about it a lot because I guess he was very abusive to my mom. So you know, he actually took a shot at her when he was pregnant. She was pregnant for me, and missed.
Oh.
She had to check his gun at the door. He was a cop.
Uh-huh.
I just remember when I was about 9 or 10, my grandfather came out, and the nicest guy in the world. Everyone called him Smiley. He's everybody's dad. You know, my friends come over to the house. He'll make him. Oh, Chuck's not here. I'll make him breakfast, make him lunch or whatever. Nicest guy in the world. He came out. I saw that motherfucker. And never cussed. He said that had his billy club and his gun. And he left. Didn't come back. I'm like, when I found out later what it was, he thought he saw my dad. So that I kind of thinking back now. I'm like, well, maybe that's why I didn't come back. But, you know, he knew my grandpa was gunning for him. So
Right.
Got it. Wow. Amazing.
From your grandfather. Let's switch again from Shrink. Chuck, you have a.
You're like, look, enough. This session's going on a long time.
Gonna hunt me down and knock me out. You have a lengthy career. You fought a lot of great people. What are I guess your top 2 most memorable fights or moments as a as a UFC fighter?
I mean, number one, I mean, people ask me all the time. I love my career. There's been a lot of great moments, especially growing the sport and being involved in all that. But I mean, if I have to pick something, put a gun in my head, I pick something. I mean, beating Randy the first time after we just won the show. You know, my team won the show, and then you know it was the biggest pay-per-view we had by I think 3 times, maybe 4 times since forever. So it was a and I finally won the title I've been after for so long, and I eventually lost. And you know, one of the things, and then the other one was I think would have to be, if I had to pick one, it would be the first Tito fight, because I got to do on what I told everybody I would the whole time. You know,
Got it.
And you know,
great fight. And Keith, just so you know, you keep saying the show. There's a show that's very popular. It's called The Ultimate Fighter.
I was on the first season Ultimate Fighter, and actually my manager quit at the time over me not fighting for a new contract and doing the show instead of extending my contract, putting 2 extra fights at the end of my contract and doing the show. I'm like, man, it's gonna be on free TV. I gotta be on this one. I gotta be in this.
There you go. Right.
And that's where he met my friend Alex, was on the show.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And that show skyrocketed the UFC to to where it is now.
It not only got a free fight on TV, on free TV, and then the Bonner Forrest fight was just an amazing fight to be the main event. You know, you could ask for a better fight to show off MMA.
Yeah. What do you think of the sport now and how it's evolved and where it's at?
I think it's great. I mean, it's going to keep getting better. I mean, guys are now learning from the beginning. They're training from the beginning and everything. You know, when we first came in, we were all trying to figure out how to put it together. Mm-hmm. We got a wrestler here, we got a striker, a jiu-jitsu guy here, a striker here. We're just all coming together. How do we blend all this stuff? Now they got strength coaches, nutritionists, got head coaches that know how to put everything together.
Can you give me some advice? Because Saturday when I was rolling with some Yahoo, I know. And my wife gives me a hard time for doing this. So first of all, my wife doesn't quite understand the whole guy touching guy thing. She doesn't get that whole wrestling mentality that's been in my blood since I was 12, which and then terminology like mount and, high crotch in wrestling and certain like very, sketchy terms. My wife struggles with that, but give some advice for me at 52 years old. I hurt my ribs Saturday. Someone was trying to throw an arm bar. He's like 25-year-old kid. I'm 52 and it popped. And should I still be doing this at my age? Because
yes, pick and choose your opponents.
Yeah.
Be at your age. I mean, it's going with it like I used to get guys that used, like, when I was training, I get guys that try to put a headlock on and just try to crank your neck. I'm like, look, man. I'd be like, look, let go of my neck, or I'm gonna put my forearm in your face. I'm gonna put my forearm in your face and push you off. You're not gonna like it. But it's like, it just, there's no. I mean, I I'd rather roll with really good guys. That one, it makes it better. It's, you know, you got better competition.
Yeah.
But two, they're not going to hurt you for the sake of hurting you.
Yeah,
You
I mean, I typically roll with guys that
aren't this guy. You know,
yeah. Well, I always roll with guys that aren't going to hurt me. It was probably a combination of me just being a stubborn old man, thinking I was 25 years old and I should have just, you know, let him get the arm bar and tapped. But I didn't. So, you know, do you still use this sport or use your training? Like for me, having kids that have a serious disease, my training, and I've told Keith, is my Prozac. It keeps me.
Well, no, I agree with that 100%. I mean, it was really weird. I got my hand piece of glass, and after I retired, cut both flexor tendons.
Yeah.
I had 3 surgeries to fix it because it's the first one snapped in 8 weeks, and so I had to do it again. And I wasn't able to hit it back for the first time since I was like 12 years old. I hadn't hit it back for a year.
Wow.
And I was getting really, I didn't really, and I couldn't wrestle either, and I couldn't do jiu-jitsu, so I wasn't able to do any of the stuff that I wasn't able to spar, wasn't able to hit people. And I was really not understanding why I was so on edge all the time. I like snapping that stuff that I normally didn't snap. I'm like, it was getting to the point where I was just like, really, like, what is wrong? I had to think about, okay, don't snap. Like I wanted to snap, but I didn't. And until I started hitting the bag again, I realized that's where I shut off. Like I shut my brain down. I let myself just get there, and I get everything out on. I hitting the bag, wrestling. I can actually not think about something. Like my brain runs all the time. So I'm
like meditation.
Yeah, it's like meditation. I'm just thinking about how to beat you. I'm not wondering about what's going on over here, or that meeting over there, or that job over there. All I'm worried about is how can I set this guy up to get through here. Same thing when I'm sparring. I'm just trying to set you up and get back, land something, and having that release, you know, even three times a week is huge for me. You know,
you know what?
Keep that. It's almost like keep my tank low. You know, so it takes a lot to get it up here.
I'll say real quick, you know,
I'm idling here.
My wife, although she doesn't get it, if I'm just being a grouchy bastard, she's like, get your ass to the school and train, because, and Chuck just said it, his mind's everywhere. I'm the same way. And the only time I can say that my mind is only focused on one thing and one thing only is when I am practicing martial arts. There is nothing else in the world that keeps my brain from thinking about 400 other things at once. Maybe it's because you have to protect yourself and survive. Maybe that's the reason why, and not get hurt. But yeah, it really is.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, listen, a couple things. First of all, I want your opinion on something, Chuck. You know, it's very appealing, since you know, it is what I do, for me to think what you just, he's gonna call. He's gonna call.
Well, how cool is this? You know,
all right, no,
awesome. It wasn't even me. Well, you all right for time?
No.
Yeah, we're gonna end it. We're gonna end it in a minute.
Hold on 1 second. That was just the gate. I was gonna make sure they let this guy in.
Okay.
Why does Chuck Liddell need a gate? You are a gate. Dude. Who wants? It's like saying a Doberman. Like there should be. You know, it's like stop.
The Doberman should have like a German Shepherd.
Who's trying to get in the Doberman's house? Like no.
They do that, Sean.
Not a thing.
And who's going to question Chuck Liddell for even taking a phone call? I mean, you could get up and take a shit right now, and I wouldn't say anything to you.
So here's the.
I just realized I forgot. We were training the pool, and the guy's coming to fix everything. So
Keith, ask your question, and then we're going to have.
Here's the question. So first, so I'll just ask the question. The observation we can do another time. The question is video gamers. Okay. What do you think? And what do you think about this whole movement toward things that are not kind of like physical and in the moment, if you will, the movement toward high tech? What do you think? What's your thought on that?
High tech, man. I'm not mad at anyone for doing it. But I don't. People got to be active. if you're not active and moving around and, you know,
Yeah.
and, just getting out and playing and shutting off your phone, shutting off your stuff, go out and have a good time, like relax.
Yeah.
I get caught up sometimes too when I doing too much of this and too much of that. I really, I have to, what, I'm just gonna put this down. I just put it away out of reach. So I'm not sitting there just out of habit, just going down looking at my phone. But
Well,
yeah, I mean, we make like our kids, we make them go outside, we make them play. One of my favorite thing, they did an interview about a year and a half ago. Someone was interviewing my kids, and they asked both of them separately, without being coached, without knowing what was going on, what their favorite thing to do was, and then both of them said play outside. I'm like,
Yeah, it's so true.
that's awesome.
So
What
true.
kid says that nowadays? That, and I will say I follow Chuck on Instagram, and throw me a follow, will you, Chuck? And if you haven't already. And I always see him putting video or pictures up with his family, and they're either snowboarding or skiing or doing this. So then I see Chuck at the range, so you are a very active guy. You're someone that, even though we're the same age, technically I can look up to you because I'm only 5'7" and you're a hell of a lot taller than me. As a man, as a father, from what Alex tells me about you as a human being, really endured me to you. And the fact that, I think the connection with us, I think you saw the type of dad I am with my kids, and, weren't afraid to, make friends with me, so to speak. So, what are you doing now? What do you plug in? How do people find you, when this launches?
At Chuck Liddell. I have a show we're working on, No Chuck's Given, should be coming out soon. And then
Cool.
I've got a few other things I'm in the works, but just at Chuck Liddell on Twitter, Facebook, whatever,
Super.
Instagram, all that stuff. And yeah, so
You're the man. You know what? UFC.
Great meeting
Hall
you,
of
man.
Famer,
nice talking to you.
Chuck Liddell. Thank you so much, champ. And we'll be in touch. Take care.
Take
All
it
right.
All right. Bye now.
Take it easy, buddy.
easy.
Wow. You know what? What do you think of that guy? Are you going to become a UFC fan now? Are you going to go to YouTube and start watching?
I already was I'm a minor UFC fan. My son and I have gone to bouts and so forth. So I like it. And I like the fact that there's plenty of there with Chuck. Like, if I were to prescribe one thing for him, and I didn't give him this observation, but he might see it when he watches the podcast. If he does, he needs the why. He still doesn't have it. He's guessing at it. Can you imagine a guy with his success, who's been through what he's been through, elected to not have no contact with the guy who left him when he was 3? Because he's terrified. And he didn't tell me, by the way, he's going to be mad at me when he sees this, but I hope he does see it. He's terrified to go there.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, he's now deceased, he had said.
Well, but there are people to ask, why did dad leave? And
Right.
The thought he has in his mind is, I think it has something to do with my grandfather threatened him when he was at that. No, it doesn't. It has to do with all the story before that as to what happened to his dad that left him unable to be a stand-up guy.
Yeah. You know what? And I think he faces, I think one of the other things maybe that a lot of celebrities face is that a lot of dads or parents, it can be moms also, that leave a family dynamic or leave their child and come back when their child is famous. That happens more often than not. So, how genuine is it when someone's coming back when they've already
Not genuine at all.
Right. So that's, for me personally, if that happened to me, I don't have a problem cutting people off myself either, if I have to, it's.
And by the way, my fantasy here is not that they'd walk off into the sunset together, but instead that Chuck, who seems like a golden guy, wonderful guy, that he would have the opportunity to fill in the blanks. And it doesn't mean that he throws his arms around his dad's shoulders, but for him to be able to say, okay, right, got it. So you were broken that way. So I'm not unlovable. I know that because my grandfather was there and so was my mother. But in terms of you, Dad,
Right.
quote unquote, I see sort of the way that things came down the pike at you.
Right. Well, I mean, I've gone through a similar situation with him where I was put up for adoption and, and then found my biological mother and, had those questions prior to finding her. I didn't have fame and fortune by any means, but I had questions that needed to be answered that I was able to answer. But when I found my biological mother as an investigator and someone I like to think that I've, I'm pretty smart and have a sixth sense to things. I didn't think I was getting the truth from her because then I started to get stories from other family members that what she told me, was a bag of shit that, why she put me up for adoption. And then I'm like, what makes more sense?
Right.
And it wasn't her story.
Yeah, so she's just not coming forward with the truth.
No, just be honest. Be, honesty, it works. I was told that my biological left me because she was forced to put me up for adoption. Then I'm told from someone else that no, she wasn't forced to put me up for adoption. She was too consumed with her career and in being young and partying. And that's why she put you up for adoption. Well, just tell me that then, because I really don't give a shit either way.
Yeah. And that wouldn't, by the way, that wouldn't be the whole story either, because she doesn't have access to the whole story, your biological mother, because if she said to you, listen, I put you up for adoption because I loved partying, I wanted my own time.
Yeah.
Then the next question is, man, you were that broken.
Yeah.
You were that needy of attention. What happened to you, Mom, that you would have traded the experiences of motherhood and sold me out that way?
Who also already had another child at the time, which throws a whole new dynamic into it.
It does. It
had
really
a
does.
2-year-old at the time from another gentleman, and just
Right.
didn't want the responsibility of 2, I guess. Yeah, which to me, I feel like, and I told her when I found her, no, I'm not trying to spin this about me right now, but that was the best gift I was ever given in life, because I
Finding her.
No, being put up for adoption.
Being put up for adoption. Got it. Yes, of course.
Because my life was wonderful and I was loved, and
Right.
so there's a lot of stuff. So, there's some parallels between the Iceman and myself. I'm certainly not as tough as him. What's funny is I met Chuck before I actually knew him in Boston. So a friend of mine who owns Yale Appliance and Lighting in Boston. It's right off the expressway. He hired Chuck to do.
Well, I hope they paid for the plug, but go on.
Yeah,
no, I'm only kidding.
Oh,
only
trust
kidding.
me, I'll be reaching out for I'll be reaching out for this.
Free lamp or something.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, let's get better lighting. Better lighting on
Yeah,
this.
something, outlets, something.
Yeah, he was doing commercials for them, picking up like refrigerators and washing machines. This is back when he was the UFC champion. So I had an opportunity to hang out with him in the green room when he was doing it, and he was the nicest guy back then. And that's when he was in the height of his career and his fame, when he had the ability at that time to be, a little full of himself, but he wasn't.
Well, it's interesting, people on the sporting and psychological side, it's fascinating to get a window into a guy's mind who is that settled, pulse is not racing, he's got a job to do, and he has no misgivings. Like if you die, that's part of the risk you took.
Yeah.
And it's not going to haunt Chuck Liddell, right? Because, and I would say it's number one, because, well, that's who he is. And, that's what the sport is. Okay, that's fine. But it's also somehow wrapped up with, hey, look, a guy leaves you when you're 3 and tries to come back when you're famous, and you tell him, go screw yourself.
Yeah. So
if you get in the ring with me, just understand, this is what we decided to do.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
fascinating.
Fascinating.
I hope you would take mercy on me. Like if I fought him, I hope he'd be like, look, Keith, I'll hit you once. And just go down.
The way that you laid it out, it sounded like, you were going to have like a like a charity match with him or something. And he's like, of course I'm not going to kill you.
Who says now? I mean, yeah, right, exactly. Wait till I get in shape and I'm walking in like a real menace, and then, you know, who knows what happens.
Well,
Yeah,
well,
kidding.
on that note, let's wrap up this episode of Violent
All
Minds. And then until the next one, I'm Mark Chauppetta. That's Dr. Keith Ablow, and we'll see you on the flip side, everyone.